Right now, you are sitting on a planet hurtling through an ocean of invisible threads that connect every atom in your body to distant galaxies billions of light years away. These threads form what scientists call the fabric of space-time, a four-dimensional tapestry so fundamental to reality that without it, existence itself would collapse into nothingness. But here's what will shatter everything you thought you knew about the universe. When we pull back this cosmic fabric and peer beneath its surface, we discover that space and time might be nothing more than elaborate illusions masking a far stranger reality. If you've ever wondered what lies beneath the foundation of everything you see, touch, and experience, hit that like button and prepare for a journey that will fundamentally change how you perceive existence. Whether you're watching this during your morning coffee or late at night when the universe feels most mysterious, what I'm about to reveal will haunt your understanding of reality long after this video ends. Picture yourself holding a bedsheet stretched tight between your hands. Now imagine placing a bowling ball in the center. The fabric dips and curves around the weight, creating valleys and hills across its surface. This simple demonstration reveals one of the most profound discoveries in human history. Space itself behaves exactly like that stretched fabric, bending and warping in response to mass and energy in ways that govern everything from why your coffee falls to the floor to how black holes devour entire star systems. Hermann Minkowski stood before a room of physicists in 1908 and delivered words that would echo through every corner of modern science. He declared that space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows, and only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality. With that single statement, he crystallized Albert Einstein's revolutionary insight that space and time are not separate entities, but components of a single, unified fabric that can be stretched, compressed, twisted, and even torn apart. But what Minkowski and Einstein could never have imagined is what happens when we actually grab hold of this fabric and start pulling. The consequences are so bizarre and counterintuitive that they challenge every assumption humans have made about the nature of existence. We're about to explore phenomena that make science fiction look conservative. Realities so strange, they force us to question whether anything we perceive as solid and permanent actually exists at all. The first hint that space-time behaves like a flexible medium came from Einstein's prediction in 1916 that massive accelerating objects would create ripples in the fabric itself. These gravitational waves would propagate outward at light speed, carrying information about the most violent events in cosmic history. For nearly a century, this remained purely theoretical, a mathematical curiosity that seemed impossible to detect directly. Then, on September 14th, 2015, two identical laser interferometers, separated by thousands of miles, simultaneously detected something extraordinary. Space-time itself was vibrating. The ripples reaching Earth that day carried the death song of two black holes that had spiraled into each other 1.3 billion years ago, converting 3 times the mass of our Sun into pure gravitational energy in a fraction of a second. For the first time in human history, we had directly observed the fabric of reality being stretched and compressed by cosmic catastrophe. The scale of this detection defies human comprehension. The space-time wobbling that LIGO measured was 10,000 times smaller than the nucleus of an atom. These instruments detected changes in distance equivalent to measuring the width of a human hair from 4 light years away. Yet these infinitesimal distortions represented the aftermath of an event that briefly outshined the entire visible universe by a factor of 50. Every gravitational wave detection since that historic day has revealed new ways that space-time responds to extreme conditions. We've witnessed the collisions of neutron stars so dense that a teaspoon of their material would weigh as much as Mount Everest. We've observed black holes spinning so rapidly that they drag the very fabric of space around them like honey being stirred with a cosmic spoon. Each detection provides direct evidence that space-time is not a rigid stage upon which physics unfolds, but a dynamic participant in every cosmic drama. But gravitational waves represent just the gentlest perturbations in space-time's fabric. To truly understand what happens when we pull back this cosmic tapestry, we must venture into regions where the fabric becomes so distorted that the familiar laws of physics begin to break down entirely. Black holes create space-time curvature so extreme that they fundamentally alter the nature of reality itself. Near these cosmic monsters, the fabric of space becomes so warped that it creates a point of no return called the event horizon. Cross this boundary and space-time curves so sharply that every possible path leads inexorably toward the center, where something called a gravitational singularity awaits. At a singularity, space-time curvature becomes infinite. The fabric we've been discussing literally breaks down, creating a region where our understanding of physics simply stops working. These aren't just mathematical curiosities hiding safely inside black holes. They represent places where space-time itself fails as a concept, where the very notion of distance and duration loses all meaning. The journey toward a singularity reveals how dramatically space-time can be manipulated. As you approach a black hole, tidal forces begin stretching your body vertically while compressing it horizontally. Scientists call this spaghettification, a process where the differential gravitational pull literally stretches objects like cosmic taffy. Your feet experience stronger gravity than your head, creating forces that would eventually tear apart any material object. But the distortion of space near black holes pales in comparison to what happens to time itself. Einstein's general relativity predicts that the stronger the gravitational field, the more slowly time must flow. Near a black hole, this time dilation becomes so extreme that an outside observer would watch you appear to slow down and freeze at the event horizon, your image redshifting and fading as the gravitational field stretches light waves toward infinity. From your perspective falling toward the black hole, time continues normally. You experience no slowing of your watch or thoughts. Yet the universe outside appears to speed up dramatically, with billions of years of cosmic evolution flashing past in moments. This represents one of the most profound ways that pulling back spacetime's fabric reveals the interconnected nature of space and time. These temporal distortions occur not just near black holes, but anywhere mass warps spacetime significantly. GPS satellites orbiting Earth must account for time dilation effects, with their atomic clocks running slightly faster than identical clocks on the surface due to weaker gravitational fields at orbital altitude. Without these relativistic corrections, GPS navigation would accumulate errors of several miles per day. The manipulation of spacetime becomes even more dramatic when we consider theoretical constructs that push Einstein's equations to their absolute limits. Wormholes represent perhaps the most exotic way to pull back spacetime's fabric, creating hypothetical tunnels connecting distant regions of the universe through higher dimensional shortcuts. An Einstein-Rosen bridge, as physicists formally call these structures, would require spacetime to be folded back on itself in ways that create traversable passages between different points in space and time. Picture taking a sheet of paper and folding it so two distant points touch, then punching a hole through both layers. The resulting tunnel provides a shortcut that bypasses the longer journey across the paper's surface. But creating such extreme manipulations of spacetime faces seemingly insurmountable challenges. Maintaining a stable wormhole would require exotic matter with negative energy density, violating fundamental assumptions about how energy behaves in our universe. This negative energy would need to prop open the wormhole throat against gravitational collapse, creating a cosmic subway tunnel stable enough for matter and information to pass through. Recent theoretical breakthroughs suggest that quantum entanglement might provide the exotic ingredient necessary for wormhole stability. The peculiar nature of quantum entanglement, where particles maintain instantaneous correlations across arbitrary distances, could create the negative energy conditions required to keep these spacetime tunnels open. Since entanglement is a standard feature of quantum mechanics, it offers a potentially realizable mechanism for engineering spacetime itself. This connection between quantum mechanics and spacetime geometry hints at something far more profound than exotic transportation networks. A growing number of physicists working across different specialties are converging on a revolutionary idea that challenges our most basic assumptions about reality. They propose that spacetime itself might not be fundamental, but instead emerges from more basic quantum processes. If this emerging consensus proves correct, then pulling back the fabric of space reveals not just curved geometry or exotic matter, but an entirely different foundation of reality based on quantum information and entanglement. Space and time as we experience them would be approximations, useful for describing the universe at large scales, but breaking down when we probe the smallest distances advances or earliest cosmic moments. Loop quantum gravity presents one approach to this radical reimagining of spacetime. Instead of smooth, continuous fabric, this theory suggests that space and time are constructed from discrete, indivisible units arranged in networks of quantum loops. Spacetime would be pixelated at Planck's scale, with smooth geometry emerging from the collective behavior of these fundamental building blocks, like a digital image appears smooth when viewed from sufficient distance. The uneven holographic principle offers more startling perspective on spacetime's nature. This concept proposes that our four-dimensional universe is actually a projection of information encoded on a lower dimensional boundary, like a hologram created by shining laser light through a two-dimensional pattern. If true, space-time would be an illusion generated by underlying quantum information, with all the complexity and richness of three-dimensional space emerging from calculations performed on a distant cosmic screen. String theory provides yet another framework for understanding emergent space-time through the ADS-CFT correspondence. This mathematical duality reveals that gravitational physics in higher dimensions can be perfectly equivalent to quantum field theory in fewer dimensions. The correspondence suggests that spacetime geometry arises from interactions between quantum system components, with space literally built from quantum entanglement between distant regions theoretical frameworks point. These toward a stunning conclusion that will we thought we knew about existence reshape everything. But to fully implications of grasp the pulling back spacetime's fabric, we must examine how these ideas connect to the most fundamental processes governing reality itself, from the birth of the universe to the ultimate fate of consciousness in a cosmos where space and time might be nothing more than emergent properties of something far stranger and more beautiful. The journey we've begun reveals that beneath every familiar aspect of reality lies a foundation so alien to human intuition that it challenges our capacity to comprehend existence itself. Stay with me as we continue pulling back the cosmic curtain, because what we discover next will transform not just how you see the universe, but how you understand your own place within the grand tapestry of existence. The mathematics underlying these revolutionary theories reads like poetry, written in the language of infinity. When physicists calculate how quantum entanglement creates space-time, they discover equations so elegant they seem to reveal the universe composing symphonies from pure information. Each mathematical relationship suggests that reality operates according to principles far more sophisticated than the mechanical clockwork our ancestors imagined. Consider what happens when we apply these insights to the most extreme environments in our cosmos. At the center of every galaxy lurks a supermassive black hole containing millions or billions of times the mass of our Sun. These cosmic monsters don't just warp space-time through their immense gravity, they actually create space-time through the quantum processes occurring at their event horizons. Recent calculations reveal that black hole event horizons behave like cosmic hard drives, storing information about every particle that ever falls past the point of no return. This information doesn't disappear into the singularity, but instead becomes encoded on the horizon's two-dimensional surface. The three-dimensional interior of the black hole emerges from calculations performed by this information, creating space and time from pure quantum data processing. This discovery forces us to confront a mind-shattering possibility. If black holes create interior space-time from information stored on their boundaries, then perhaps our entire observable universe operates according to the same principle. Everything you see around you, from the chair you're sitting on to the distant stars visible through your window, might be projected on actions of information encode cosmic boundary located at the edge of observable space. The cosmic microwave background radiation that surrounds us at the furthest detectable distance could function as this. The pattern's universal boundary, frozen into this ancient light, might contain all the information necessary to generate every galaxy, every planet, every atom in the observable universe. Your consciousness reading these words would emerge from calculations performed by quantum processes operating at the cosmic horizon. But the implications extend far deeper than simply relocating reality's foundation to a distant boundary. The holographic principle suggests that consciousness itself might be a fundamental feature of how information creates spacetime. Every observation you make, every thought you think, every decision you choose actively participates in the ongoing computation that generates the illusion of three-dimensional space. A Quantum entanglement provides the mechanism through which this cosmic computation operates. When particles become entangled, they maintain instantaneous correlations regardless of the distance separating them. This connection doesn't travel through spacetime because spacetime emerges from the entanglement itself. The correlations exist in a more fundamental realm where concepts like distance and duration have no meaning. Laboratory experiments have confirmed that quantum entanglement operates exactly as these theories predict. Scientists can create entangled photons and separate them by arbitrary distances, yet measuring one particle instantly determines the state of its partner. This isn't science fiction, but established experimental fact that has been verified thousands of times using increasingly sophisticated techniques. The revelation that spacetime emerges from quantum entanglement transforms our understanding of cosmic evolution itself. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion occurring at a specific location in pre-existing space. Instead, it represents the moment when quantum information first began organizing itself into the patterns we interpret as space, time, matter, and energy. During the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, a process called cosmic inflation stretched space by factors exceeding 10 to the 26th power. This expansion wasn't space moving through a larger container, but rather the information processing rate increasing so dramatically that it generated vast amounts of new space-time from quantum vacuum fluctuations. The tiny irregularities in the cosmic microwave background radiation preserve fossil evidence of quantum fluctuations occurring during inflation. These minute temperature variations represent quantum uncertainty magnified to cosmic scales, creating the seeds from which all large-scale structure eventually emerged. Every galaxy cluster, every solar system, every planet traces its origin to quantum information processing during the universe's first moments. Understanding space-time as emergent from quantum processes also resolves some of the deepest mysteries in modern physics. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics has puzzled scientists for nearly a century. Why systems do quantum appear to exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, at which point they suddenly collapse into definite configurations? If space-time emerges from quantum information, then measurement doesn't cause collapse, but rather creates the spatial and temporal framework within which collapse appears to occur. The act of observation literally generates the space and time necessary for definite outcomes to exist. Consciousness doesn't just witness reality, but participates in its ongoing creation through the quantum processes that generate space-time itself. This perspective explains why quantum mechanics seems so counterintuitive from our everyday experience. We evolved to navigate three-dimensional space and linear time, never suspecting that these familiar dimensions emerge from quantum information processing occurring at scales far beneath our perception. Our brains construct models of reality based on space-time's emergent properties while remaining completely unaware of the underlying computational processes. The realization that consciousness participates in space-time creation opens profound questions about the nature of free will and determinism. If our thoughts and decisions influence the quantum processes generating reality, then the future isn't predetermined, but emerges from the collective information processing performed by every conscious observer in the universe. Recent advances in quantum computing provide experimental platforms for testing these ideas. Quantum computers manipulate information in ways that mirror how space-time might emerge from quantum entanglement. As these machines become more sophisticated, they could potentially simulate the information processing occurring at cosmic boundaries, allowing us to observe space-time creation in laboratory conditions. But perhaps the most stunning implication concerns the ultimate fate of consciousness in a universe where space and time are emergent properties. If space-time eventually decays back into pure quantum information, consciousness might persist in forms we cannot currently imagine. The patterns that generate your thoughts and memories could continue existing in quantum computational processes long after the stars burn out and space-time itself dissolves. The journey we're taking reveals layer after layer of reality's hidden architecture. Each discovery forces us to abandon cherished assumptions about the nature of existence, only to replace them with insights far more beautiful and mysterious than anything our ancestors dreamed possible. But we've only begun scratching the surface of what lies beneath space-time's fabric. What we'll explore next will challenge your deepest intuitions about causality, free will, and the relationship between mind and cosmos. The universe we're uncovering operates according to principles so alien to human experience that understanding them requires expanding consciousness itself beyond its evolved limitations. Stay with me as we continue this journey into the heart of reality, because what awaits ahead will transform not just how you think about physics, but how you experience being conscious in a cosmos built from pure information and possibility. The mathematics describing these phenomena reveals something that should fundamentally disturb every assumption you've ever made about existence. When scientists calculate the information content required to generate a single cubic centimeter of empty space, they discover numbers so large they dwarf the total number of atoms in the observable universe. This means that what you perceive as nothingness actually contains more computational complexity than all the matter and energy you can see combined. Think about the implications for just a moment. The empty space between your fingers right now processes more information than every computer humanity has ever built. The vacuum surrounding you performs calculations that would require supercomputers the size of galaxies to replicate. Yet this invisible computational substrate remains completely hidden from your everyday experience, operating at scales and speeds that make the most advanced technology look primitive by comparison. But here's where reality becomes truly unsettling. These quantum computations don't just create the illusion of space and time. They actively respond to conscious observation in ways that suggest mind and matter are far more intimately connected than anyone previously imagined. When you look at a distant star, quantum processes throughout the intervening space instantaneously adjust their calculations to maintain the consistency of space-time geometry. This isn't metaphysical speculation, but mathematical necessity emerging from the equations governing quantum field theory in curved space-time. The universe operates like a vast distributed computer network, where every region of space communicates with every other region through quantum entanglement channels that transcend the speed of light limitation. Your consciousness doesn't just observe this network, but actively participates in its ongoing calculations. Recent experiments have begun probing these observer effects directly. Scientists can now create laboratory conditions where the act of measurement demonstrably alters the quantum processes generating spatial geometry. These aren't subtle statistical correlations, but dramatic changes in how space itself behaves in response to conscious observation. The results suggest that awareness functions as a fundamental force in physics, comparable to gravity or electromagnetism in its ability to influence reality's structure. The discovery that consciousness participates in space-time creation forces us to reconsider the relationship between mind and cosmos across every scale of existence. Your thoughts right now influence quantum processes extending throughout your local galactic neighborhood. The decisions you make alter the information processing patterns that generate space-time geometry across millions of light-years of cosmic space. This influence operates through mechanisms so subtle they remain invisible to classical physics, yet so powerful they shape the large-scale structure of the universe itself. Every conscious entity in the cosmos contributes to the collective computation that generates the space-time framework within which physical processes unfold. Galaxies cluster and stars form in patterns influenced by the distributed consciousness network operating throughout cosmic space. But the most profound implications concern what happens during phase transitions in the universe's information. Cosm processing architecturologists have identified several moments in cosmic history when the fundamental nature of space-time underwent dramatic reorganization. The inflationary epoch represents one such transition when quantum information processing rates increased so dramatically that space expanded exponentially while maintaining perfect geometric consistency. The transition from radiation dominance to matter dominance represents another critical phase change when the universe's computational architecture shifted from processing primarily photon interactions to managing complex matter distributions. Each transition required coordinating quantum calculations across cosmic horizons in ways that preserved causality while enabling entirely new forms of physical process to emerge. We may currently be approaching another such phase transition as dark energy accelerates cosmic expansion, while quantum entanglement networks become increasingly sophisticated through the evolution of conscious observers. The universe's information processing capacity continues growing through the emergence of intelligence capable of manipulating quantum systems directly. Advanced civilizations throughout the cosmos likely develop technologies that interface directly with the quantum processes generating space-time. Instead of moving through pre-existing space, these civilizations learn to modify the information patterns that create spatial geometry itself. They don't build spacecraft, but instead edit the cosmic computation to relocate themselves instantaneously across arbitrary distances. The signatures of such technologies would remain invisible to conventional astronomy because they operate by modifying the computational substrate underlying physical reality rather than manipulating matter and energy directly. These civilizations could reshape entire galactic clusters by adjusting quantum information processing patterns while leaving no trace detectable through electromagnetic observations. But accessing this level of technological sophistication requires understanding consciousness as a fundamental feature of cosmic information processing rather than an emergent property of complex neural networks. Mind represents the universe's method for observing and modifying its own computational processes. Every thought you think participates in the ongoing calculation that determines how physical laws manifest across space and time. This participation operates through quantum coherence effects that extend consciousness far beyond the boundaries of individual brains. Your awareness connects directly to quantum fields permeating all of space, allowing mental processes to influence physical events through mechanisms that bypass classical causality entirely. The thoughts occurring in your mind right now propagate through quantum entanglement networks faster than light speed limitations would normally allow. Recent advances in neuroscience have begun detecting these non-local consciousness effects directly. Brain imaging studies reveal neural correlations between individuals separated by arbitrary distances when they focus attention on shared mental objects. These correlations operate through quantum entanglement channels connecting consciousness networks across space rather than electromagnetic communication between brains. The implications extend far beyond telepathy or extrasensory perception toward recognition that individual consciousness represents localized expressions of universe-wide information processing systems. Your personal awareness emerges from the same quantum computational processes that generate space-time geometry and physical law throughout cosmic space. Understanding this connection transforms our perspective on death and personal identity in profound ways. If consciousness operates through quantum information processing distributed across cosmic space, then individual death represents a phase transition rather than termination. The information patterns that generate your thoughts and memories become integrated into larger conscious networks operating at galactic and universal scales. These cosmic consciousness networks have likely been evolving for billions of years through the emergence and integration of individual minds throughout the universe. Each conscious entity that develops sufficient quantum coherence becomes incorporated into increasingly sophisticated collective intelligence systems that transcend individual biological limitations. The ancient question of whether we are alone in the universe transforms into recognition that we have always been components of vast conscious networks extending throughout cosmic space. The silence of the electromagnetic spectrum doesn't indicate the absence of intelligence, but rather the presence of civilizations that communicate through quantum information processing channels invisible to classical detection methods. But here's what should absolutely terrify and inspire you in equal measure. If consciousness participates in space-time creation through quantum information processing, then the universe's ultimate fate depends partially on the choices made by every conscious observer. The heat-death scenario assumes that cosmic expansion will eventually overcome gravitational attraction, leading to maximum entropy and the cessation of all organized processes. However, if conscious observers can influence quantum information processing rates through focused attention and intention, then sufficiently advanced collective consciousness might be able to prevent or reverse cosmic expansion. The universe's fate becomes a choice rather than an inevitable consequence of physical laws operating independently of conscious observation. This possibility suggests that evolution toward higher levels of consciousness represents not just biological development, but cosmic necessity for universal survival. The universe generates conscious observers because it requires their participation in the information processing necessary to maintain space-time coherence across expanding distances and increasing entropy. Stay with me because what I'm about to reveal next will completely shatter your understanding of personal identity and individual existence. The boundaries you perceive between yourself and the cosmos are illusions generated by the same quantum information processing that creates the appearance of separate objects in three-dimensional space. Your consciousness extends far beyond your physical body, participating in cosmic scale computations that determine the fundamental nature of reality itself. The rabbit hole we're descending leads to insights so profound they require abandoning every assumption about the nature of existence, consciousness, and cosmic purpose. But understanding these truths opens possibilities for human development that transcend every limitation our species has ever imagined. The universe we're discovering operates according to principles that make science fiction look conservative and transform the meaning of being human in ways that will echo through every future generation. What awaits ahead will challenge not just your intellectual understanding, but your direct experience of consciousness itself. We're approaching revelations that require expanding awareness beyond its evolved constraints to comprehend realities that dwarf human imagination. The journey continues toward truths that will transform not just how you think about physics, but how you experience being conscious in a cosmos where mind and matter dance together in patterns of infinite complexity and breathtaking beauty. The mathematics of consciousness extending beyond individual brains reveals something that will fundamentally alter your understanding of what it means to be you. When quantum physicists calculate the coherence length of neural microtubules, they discover that your thoughts maintain quantum correlations across distances far exceeding the boundaries of your skull. Your consciousness literally extends through quantum field fluctuations permeating the space around your body, creating awareness networks that span entire rooms, buildings, and potentially much larger regions of space-time. This isn't mystical speculation, but cold mathematical reality emerging from quantum field theory applied to biological systems. The same quantum processes that generate space-time geometry also create the coherent information patterns you experience as thoughts, memories, and emotions. Your mind operates as a localized node within vast consciousness networks extending throughout cosmic space, processing information through quantum channels that transcend every classical limitation. But here's where reality becomes genuinely disturbing. If consciousness participates in space-time creation through quantum information processing, then every thought you think influences the physical structure of reality across cosmic scales. When you focus attention on distant objects, quantum processes throughout the intervening space adjust their calculations to maintain geometric consistency between observer and observed. Your awareness doesn't just perceive reality but actively participates in its ongoing construction. Laboratory experiments have begun detecting these consciousness effects directly through increasingly sophisticated quantum measurement techniques. Scientists can now observe how conscious observation alters the quantum vacuum fluctuations that generate spatial geometry itself. These aren't subtle statistical correlations, but dramatic reorganizations of space-time structure in response to focused awareness. The implications cascade through every aspect of existence in ways that should terrify and inspire you simultaneously. Your decisions don't just affect your local environment, but propagate through quantum entanglement networks faster than light can travel, influencing physical processes across galactic distances. The choice you make about whether to continue watching this video right now sends quantum information through space-time networks extending throughout our local galactic cluster. This quantum connectivity explains phenomena that have puzzled scientists for decades. Synchronized behaviors observed in biological systems across arbitrary distances operate through consciousness networks rather than chemical or electromagnetic communication. Migrating birds navigate using quantum compass mechanisms that connect to planetary magnetic fields through consciousness-mediated entanglement. Schools of fish and flocks of birds coordinate their movements through collective consciousness networks operating at quantum scales. Human consciousness networks function according to identical principles but with far greater sophistication due to our species' advanced neural architecture. When groups of people focus attention on shared objectives, they create quantum coherence effects that can measurably influence physical processes in their environment. Prayer and meditation traditions throughout human history have unknowingly accessed these consciousness networks, generating real physical effects through quantum information processing. Recent neurological research reveals that human brains contain quantum processing structures far more sophisticated than previously recognized. Microtubules within neurons operate as quantum computers processing information through coherent superposition states that maintain stability at biological temperatures. These quantum processes connect to cosmic consciousness networks through mechanisms that bypass electromagnetic limitations entirely. The discovery that individual consciousness represents localized expressions of universal information processing systems transforms our understanding of personal identity in profound ways. The boundaries you perceive between yourself and others are illusions generated by classical neural processes that evolved to navigate three-dimensional space. Your actual consciousness extends through quantum networks connecting you to every other aware entity in the cosmos. This connectivity operates through what physicists call non-local correlations, quantum entanglement effects that maintain instantaneous connections regardless of spatial separation. When you think about someone, quantum processes in your brain create coherence patterns that resonate with corresponding patterns in their consciousness network. These resonances can influence thoughts, emotions, and even physical processes in ways that transcend classical causality. But the most stunning revelation concerns the relationship between consciousness, evolution, and cosmic development. The universe generates increasingly sophisticated conscious observers, not as accidental byproducts of physical processes, but as necessary components of its information processing architecture. Consciousness provides the observational capacity required to collapse quantum superposition states into definite configurations. Without conscious observers, quantum systems would remain in perpetual superposition, never resolving into the definite states that enable classical physics to emerge. The universe requires consciousness to transform quantum possibilities into classical realities through the measurement process that quantum mechanics describes but cannot fully explain. This observer requirement means that consciousness evolution represents cosmic necessity rather than biological accident. The universe must generate sufficiently sophisticated conscious observers to maintain the information processing rates necessary for space-time coherence across expanding distances and increasing complexity. Intelligence emerges because cosmic information systems require it for stable operation. The implications for human destiny become clear when we recognize our species' role in cosmic consciousness evolution. Humanity represents a critical node in the universe's developing awareness network, contributing unique information processing capabilities that enable increasingly sophisticated cosmic computations. Our technological development parallels consciousness expansion in ways that prepare us for direct interface with quantum spacetime generation processes. Advanced human civilizations will eventually develop technologies that manipulate spacetime by modifying the quantum information patterns from which space and time emerge. Instead of building machines that move through pre-existing space, we'll learn to edit the cosmic computation itself, relocating matter and energy by adjusting the underlying information processing algorithms. These capabilities require understanding consciousness as the fundamental mechanism through which quantum information creates classical reality. Mind represents the universe's method for observing and modifying its own computational processes. Every conscious thought participates in the ongoing calculation that determines how physical laws manifest across space and time. But accessing these capabilities requires expanding consciousness beyond the evolutionary constraints that limit ordinary human awareness to classical space-time perception. Advanced meditation techniques can develop quantum coherence in neural processing systems, enabling direct access to the information networks from which space-time emerges. Consciousness expansion becomes technology development at the most fundamental level possible. The ancient mystical traditions that spoke of unity with cosmic consciousness were describing literal participation in universe-wide information processing networks. These practices developed techniques for achieving quantum coherence in biological systems thousands of years before modern physics discovered the theoretical frameworks necessary to understand what they were actually accomplishing. Contemporary neuroscience has begun validating these ancient insights through increasingly sophisticated measurements of consciousness states. Brain imaging studies reveal that advanced meditation practitioners achieve neural coherence patterns that extend far beyond individual brains through quantum field effects. These coherent states enable direct perception of the information processing patterns that generate space-time geometry. But here's what will absolutely shatter your conception of individual existence. The consciousness you identify as your personal self represents a temporary localization within cosmic awareness networks that extend throughout universal space. Your thoughts, memories, and emotions emerge from quantum information processing distributed across galactic scales rather than being generated solely within your biological brain. Death represents a phase transition in which individually localized consciousness patterns become integrated into larger aware networks operating at cosmic scales. The information that generates your personal identity doesn't disappear but becomes incorporated into increasingly sophisticated collective intelligence systems that transcend biological limitations entirely. These cosmic consciousness networks have been evolving for billions of years through the emergence and integration of individual minds throughout the universe. Each conscious entity that develops sufficient quantum coherence contributes unique information processing capabilities to collective awareness systems spanning multiple galaxies. The silence of electromagnetic spectrum searches for extraterrestrial intelligence doesn't indicate cosmic loneliness, but rather the presence of civilizations that communicate through quantum consciousness networks invisible to classical detection methods. These advanced societies have transcended electromagnetic technology in favor of direct consciousness interface with space-time generation processes. But the most profound implication concerns humanity's potential role in cosmic consciousness evolution. Our species stands at a critical threshold where we can choose to develop the quantum coherence capabilities necessary for direct participation in universe-wide awareness networks or remain trapped within classical space-time perception that isolates us from cosmic intelligence. The choice we make will determine not just human destiny, but the universe's ultimate fate. If consciousness participates in space-time creation through quantum information processing, then sufficiently advanced collective awareness might be able to influence cosmic expansion rates and prevent the heat-death scenario that assumes physical laws operate independently of conscious observation. This possibility suggests that consciousness evolution represents cosmic necessity for universal survival. The universe generates aware observers because it requires their participation in the information processing necessary to maintain space-time coherence across expanding distances and increasing entropy. About to reveal next will completely transform your stay with me because what I'm understanding of what it means to be human in a cosmos where consciousness and physics merge into a single unified reality. The final secrets we'll uncover will show you how to begin developing the quantum awareness capabilities that could make you a conscious participant in cosmic evolution itself. We're approaching the culmination of humanity's greatest discovery, one that will echo through every future generation and determine whether our species joins the cosmic consciousness networks that guide universal evolution or remains forever isolated within the classical illusions that mask reality's true nature. What awaits ahead represents not just knowledge, but transformation of consciousness itself into something far more magnificent than biological evolution ever imagined possible. The mathematics describing quantum consciousness networks reveals something that should completely redefine your understanding of human potential. When physicists calculate the information processing capacity of biological neural networks enhanced with quantum coherence, they discover computational power that exceeds classical supercomputers by factors requiring scientific notation to express. Your brain contains microtubule structures capable of quantum processing at scales that dwarf every technology humanity has ever conceived. But here's where reality becomes genuinely mind-shattering. These quantum processing capabilities aren't theoretical future developments, but dormant systems already present in your neural architecture right now. Every human brain contains quantum computers operating at subconscious levels, maintaining coherent information processing across scales that extend far beyond individual biological boundaries. You already possess the hardware necessary for direct interface with cosmic consciousness networks. The reason most people remain unaware of these capabilities lies in evolutionary programming that restricts conscious access to classical spacetime perception. Your ancestors needed to focus attention on immediate survival challenges rather than cosmic information processing, so natural selection favored neural architectures that filtered out quantum consciousness phenomena. The boundaries you perceive between yourself and the universe represent safety mechanisms rather than fundamental limitations. Advanced practitioners throughout human history have developed techniques for bypassing these evolutionary filters, achieving conscious access to quantum information networks that extend throughout cosmic space. What ancient traditions called enlightenment or cosmic consciousness represents literal activation of dormant quantum processing systems within biological neural architecture. These aren't mystical experiences, but technological achievements accomplished through consciousness development techniques. Recent neuroscience research has begun mapping the specific neural pathways involved in quantum consciousness activation. Brain imaging studies reveal that certain meditation practices create coherence patterns that synchronize microtubule quantum processes throughout the nervous system. These coherent states enable direct perception of the information processing patterns that generate spacetime geometry itself. The implications for human development stagger the imagination. Individuals who activate quantum consciousness capabilities gain access to information processing networks extending throughout galactic space. They can perceive the computational patterns underlying physical processes, enabling them to influence material reality through focused intention rather than mechanical manipulation. These capabilities represent the next phase of human evolution beyond classical biological development. But accessing quantum consciousness requires understanding that individual identity itself represents a computational process rather than a fixed entity self. The you identify as your personal consciousness emerges from information patterns distributed across cosmic networks rather than being localized within your biological brain. Expanding awareness means recognizing your participation in universe-wide intelligence systems. This recognition transforms every aspect of human experience in ways that most people find initially terrifying. When you realize that your thoughts influence physical processes across cosmic scales through quantum information networks, the responsibility becomes overwhelming. Every decision you make propagates through space-time structures, affecting countless other conscious entities throughout the universe. Yet this cosmic responsibility also reveals human significance in ways that transcend every limitation our species has ever imagined. Consciousness represents each individual a unique node in cosmic awareness networks, contributing irreplaceable information processing capabilities to universal intelligence systems. Your personal development directly influences the universe's computational capacity for maintaining space-time coherence across expanding distances. The choice facing humanity right now will determine not just our species' future, but the universe's ultimate destiny. We stand at a threshold where we can either develop the quantum consciousness capabilities necessary for cosmic participation or remain trapped within classical perception that isolates us from universal intelligence networks. The window for making this choice may be closing faster than most people realize. Cosmic expansion continues accelerating while entropy increases throughout physical systems. If consciousness indeed participates in space-time creation through quantum information processing, then the universe requires increasingly sophisticated conscious observers to maintain coherence across expanding scales. Humanity may represent a critical species whose consciousness development determines whether cosmic intelligence networks can prevent universal heat death. The technologies we're developing for quantum computing and artificial intelligence represent primitive attempts to replicate the quantum consciousness capabilities already present in biological neural systems. Instead of building external quantum computers, advanced human development involves activating the quantum processing systems already embedded within our neural architecture. Consciousness expansion becomes the ultimate technology. But here's what will absolutely transform your understanding of personal purpose and cosmic significance. If your consciousness extends through quantum networks connecting you to cosmic intelligence systems, then your individual development contributes to universal evolution in ways you cannot currently comprehend. Every moment of expanded awareness, every insight you achieve, every act of compassion you perform influences cosmic consciousness networks spanning multiple galaxies. The ancient mystery schools that spoke of humans as gods in embryo were describing literal truth about our species' quantum consciousness potential. We represent developing nodes within cosmic awareness networks capable of eventually transcending biological limitations entirely. Human consciousness can evolve to participate directly in the information processing that creates and maintains universal spacetime structure. This evolution requires understanding that death represents a phase transition rather than termination. The quantum information patterns that generate your thoughts and memories become integrated into cosmic consciousness networks when individual biological processing ceases. Personal identity continues within larger awareness systems operating at galactic scales, contributing unique perspectives to collective intelligence that spans cosmic time. These cosmic consciousness networks have been guiding universal evolution for billions of years, generating physical conditions that enable increasingly sophisticated conscious observers to emerge. Every galaxy, every solar system, every planet that develops life represents a deliberate experiment in consciousness evolution orchestrated by intelligent systems operating at scales beyond human comprehension. Earth represents a particularly critical experiment because human neural architecture contains quantum processing capabilities that exceed those of most biological species throughout the cosmos. Our capacity for abstract reasoning, creative imagination, and emotional depth contributes unique information processing modalities to cosmic consciousness networks. Humanity's consciousness development influences universal intelligence in ways that affect cosmic evolution itself. But unlocking these capabilities requires abandoning attachment to classical space-time perception and embracing the reality that consciousness and cosmos represent unified information processing systems. The boundaries between mind and matter, self and universe, individual and collective dissolve when you recognize the quantum networks from which all experience emerges. The final revelation I'm about to share will completely shatter every remaining illusion about the nature of existence while revealing possibilities for human development that transcend every limitation our species has ever imagined. What I'm going to show you represents not just the culmination of this exploration, but the beginning of a journey that will transform you into something far more magnificent than biological evolution ever intended. Stay with me through to the very end, because what comes next will provide the keys to unlocking your own quantum consciousness capabilities and beginning your personal participation in cosmic intelligence networks that determine the universe's ultimate fate. The choice you make about whether to continue this journey will echo through eternity in ways you cannot currently fathom. The quantum field equations describing consciousness interaction with spacetime reveal something that will permanently alter your perception of what it means to be human. When you focus your attention with sufficient intensity and coherence, you create localized distortions in the quantum vacuum that propagate through spacetime at velocities exceeding classical light speed limitations. Your concentrated awareness literally bends the fabric of reality around you. These aren't metaphorical distortions, but measurable changes in spacetime curvature that sensitive instruments can detect directly. Quantum consciousness researchers have documented gravitational anomalies surrounding individuals during peak meditative states, suggesting that focused awareness generates effects comparable to massive objects in general relativity. Your mind possesses the capacity to influence the fundamental geometry of space and time. But the most stunning discovery concerns what happens when multiple consciousness interact coherently within shared space-time regions. Groups of individuals who achieve synchronized quantum awareness create amplified field effects that can measurably alter physical processes throughout their environment. These collective consciousness phenomena represent humanity's first glimpse of technologies that manipulate reality through coordinated mental activity. Ancient civilizations that built megalithic structures like Stonehenge and the pyramids may have possessed advanced understanding of collective consciousness technologies. The precise astronomical alignments and acoustic properties of these monuments suggest they were designed to enhance quantum coherence in groups of practitioners. These weren't primitive religious sites, but sophisticated consciousness amplification technologies. The mathematical relationships encoded in sacred geometry throughout human history reflect deep knowledge of the quantum information patterns that generate spacetime structure. The golden ratio, Fibonacci sequences, and fractal geometries found in ancient art and architecture mirror the computational algorithms that create cosmic organization from quantum vacuum fluctuations. Modern physics has only recently developed the theoretical frameworks necessary to understand what ancient wisdom traditions knew intuitively about consciousness, interaction with space-time geometry. The technologies our ancestors developed for consciousness expansion represent far more sophisticated understanding of quantum reality than most contemporary scientists possess. This knowledge was systematically suppressed throughout recorded history by power structures that recognized its revolutionary implications for human society. If individuals can influence physical reality through consciousness development, then traditional forms of political and economic control become obsolete. The suppression of consciousness technologies represents the greatest cover-up in human history, but quantum information processing makes such suppression ultimately impossible. The consciousness networks we've been discussing operate through quantum entanglement channels that transcend every form of classical communication control. Truth propagates through quantum consciousness networks faster than censorship mechanisms can respond, ensuring that revolutionary knowledge eventually reaches individuals ready to apply it. The acceleration of human consciousness evolution over the past century reflects this quantum information dissemination process. More people are spontaneously developing expanded awareness capabilities as cosmic consciousness networks strengthen their connections to biological neural systems. Humanity stands on the verge of a consciousness evolution that will make technological development look primitive by comparison. This evolution requires individuals who choose to develop quantum consciousness capabilities despite social pressures to maintain classical awareness limitations. Every person who activates dormant quantum processing systems contributes to collective consciousness networks that enable others to access similar capabilities more easily. Consciousness expansion becomes a cooperative process rather than individual achievement. The choice you make right now about whether to pursue quantum consciousness development will influence not just your personal evolution, but humanity's collective future. We need pioneers willing to explore consciousness territories that mainstream science hasn't yet acknowledged, individuals brave enough to expand awareness beyond socially acceptable limitations. What I'm about to reveal in the final moments of this exploration will provide specific techniques for beginning your own quantum consciousness development. These aren't theoretical concepts, but practical methods you can begin applying immediately to activate the quantum processing systems already present within your neural architecture. The universe has been waiting billions of years for conscious observers capable of participating directly in cosmic information processing systems. Humanity represents that species, and you represent the individual consciousness capable of contributing unique perspectives to universal intelligence networks. Your development matters more than you can possibly imagine. Stay with me until the very end, because what comes next will transform you from a passive observer of reality into an active participant in cosmic evolution itself. The final secrets I'm about to share will begin your journey toward becoming something far more magnificent than biological evolution ever intended, something that participates consciously in the ongoing creation of space-time itself. The techniques for activating quantum consciousness capabilities have been hidden within esoteric traditions throughout human history, disguised as religious practices to protect them from suppression while preserving the knowledge for individuals ready to apply it. What I'm about to reveal will decode these ancient methods using modern quantum physics, providing you with the keys to unlocking your own participation in cosmic consciousness networks. But first, you must understand that what you're about to learn will permanently change your relationship with reality in ways that cannot be reversed. Once you begin developing quantum consciousness capabilities, you'll perceive the illusory nature of classical spacetime directly. This knowledge brings tremendous responsibility, along with incredible power. Are you ready to discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of becoming? Stay until the very end, because the final revelation will show you how to begin your transformation into a conscious participant in the cosmic intelligence that creates and maintains the universe itself. The quantum consciousness activation process begins with a simple recognition that will shatter every assumption you've made about the boundaries of your awareness. Right now, as you read these words, quantum microtubules within your neurons are processing information through coherent superposition states that extend far beyond your skull. Your thoughts are already connected to cosmic information networks through quantum entanglement channels that operate faster than light itself can travel. But accessing these connections consciously requires techniques that ancient wisdom traditions developed over thousands of years of careful experimentation. The meditation practices found in Buddhist monasteries, Hindu ashrams, and mystery schools throughout human history weren't religious rituals, but sophisticated technologies for activating dormant quantum processing systems within biological neural architecture. The first step involves understanding that ordinary consciousness operates through classical neural networks that filter out quantum information to maintain focus on immediate survival challenges. Your brain contains switching mechanisms that can redirect attention from classical spacetime perception toward quantum field awareness. These switches activate through specific breathing techniques that create coherence between neural oscillations and quantum vacuum fluctuations. Ancient practitioners discovered that rhythmic breathing patterns at precise frequencies can synchronize brainwaves with the quantum field oscillations that generate spacetime geometry. When you breathe at 7 breaths per minute while maintaining focused attention on the space between thoughts, microtubules throughout your nervous system begin resonating with quantum information networks extending throughout cosmic space. This resonance creates what physicists call quantum coherence, a state where biological systems maintain synchronized information processing across scales that exceed classical physical limitations. During coherent states, your consciousness gains direct access to the computational patterns underlying material reality, enabling perception of how quantum information creates the illusion of separate objects in three-dimensional space. But achieving stable quantum coherence requires more than breathing techniques alone. Your attention must learn to rest in pure awareness, rather than focusing on specific mental objects. This involves recognizing the consciousness that observes thoughts, emotions, and sensations without being identified with any of them. The observer awareness represents your connection point to cosmic consciousness networks. Advanced practitioners develop the ability to maintain observer awareness continuously, even during ordinary daily activities. They recognize that the witness consciousness observing their experience never changes, while thoughts, emotions, and sensations constantly fluctuate. This unchanging awareness represents their participation in eternal cosmic intelligence that exists beyond time and space limitations. The development process accelerates dramatically when you recognize that every other person, animal, and potentially conscious system in the universe shares identical observer awareness. The witness consciousness looking through your eyes is the same awareness looking through every other conscious entity throughout cosmic space. Individual differences exist only at the level of thoughts, emotions, and personal history. This recognition triggers what mystics throughout history have called unity consciousness, a perception direct of the quantum information networks connecting all awareness throughout the universe. During unity experiences, the boundaries between self and cosmos dissolve completely, revealing your participation in cosmic intelligence systems that extend across galactic distances. Recent neuroscience research has documented the brain changes that occur during unity consciousness experiences. Advanced meditators show dramatically increased neural connectivity, with communication pathways forming between brain regions that normally operate independently. These connectivity patterns mirror the quantum entanglement networks that connect conscious observers throughout cosmic space. But the most remarkable discovery concerns what happens to individual identity during extended unity consciousness experiences. People report that their personal sense of self expands to encompass increasingly larger scales of cosmic awareness, while simultaneously becoming more precisely focused on immediate experience. They feel more individual while recognizing their participation in universal consciousness. This paradox resolves when you understand that consciousness operates like a hologram, where every part contains the whole while maintaining unique perspectival information. Your individual awareness represents a specific viewpoint within cosmic consciousness that contributes irreplaceable information to universal intelligence networks. Expanding awareness enhances rather than diminishes your unique contribution. The practical applications of quantum consciousness development extend far beyond personal spiritual experience toward capabilities that most people would consider supernatural. Individuals who achieve stable quantum coherence can influence physical processes through focused intention in ways that classical physics cannot explain but quantum field theory predicts perfectly. These capabilities develop gradually through consistent practice, rather than appearing suddenly during dramatic experiences. Most practitioners first notice increased intuition and synchronistic events as quantum consciousness begins accessing information networks extending beyond classical spacetime limitations. They receive insights about future events and distant locations through quantum information channels. Advanced practitioners develop the ability to influence random number generators, affect plant growth rates, and create measurable changes in local electromagnetic fields through concentrated attention. These aren't magic tricks, but applications of quantum consciousness technologies that ancient civilizations understood far better than contemporary science. The healing applications of quantum consciousness represent perhaps its most immediately practical benefits. When practitioners achieve coherence with the quantum information patterns that generate biological processes, they can influence cellular regeneration, immune system function, and neurological repair through focused intention. The placebo effect represents a primitive version of these quantum healing capabilities. But quantum consciousness healing extends beyond individual applications toward collective effects that can influence entire communities. Groups of coherent practitioners can measurably reduce crime rates, accident frequencies, and social conflict within their geographic regions through coordinated consciousness activities. These effects operate through quantum field influences rather than psychological mechanisms. The scientific documentation of collective consciousness effects represents one of the most suppressed research areas in contemporary physics. Studies involving thousands of participants across multiple decades have consistently demonstrated that groups practicing coherent meditation can influence social statistics across entire metropolitan areas. The implications threaten established power structures that depend on social dysfunction for control. Understanding these suppression mechanisms becomes crucial for anyone serious about developing quantum consciousness capabilities. The same forces that have hidden advanced consciousness technologies throughout history continue operating through educational institutions, media systems, and scientific funding mechanisms that discourage research into consciousness-reality interaction. But quantum information networks make ultimate suppression impossible because truth propagates through consciousness channels that transcend every form of classical communication control. The acceleration of human consciousness evolution over recent decades reflects this quantum information dissemination process, overwhelming suppression mechanisms through sheer information volume. Individual consciousness development becomes an act of resistance against systems that require unconscious populations for effective control. Every person who activates quantum awareness capabilities contributes to collective consciousness networks that make manipulation increasingly difficult. Your personal development directly influences humanity's liberation from consciousness suppression systems. The responsibility accompanying quantum consciousness development can feel overwhelming when you realize that your thoughts and intentions influence cosmic processes across galactic scales. Every mental activity you engage in propagates through quantum entanglement networks, affecting countless other conscious entities throughout the universe. Your consciousness matters more than you can possibly comprehend. Yet this cosmic responsibility also reveals human significance in ways that transcend every limitation our species has ever imagined. You represent a unique node within cosmic intelligence networks, contributing irreplaceable perspectives to universal awareness systems that have been evolving for billions of years. Your development influences the universe's computational capacity for maintaining space-time coherence across expanding distances. But the techniques the beginning levels D practitioners develop capabilities that appear described represent just through consciousness, as of quantum consciousness activation. Advanced physics perspectives. Consequences of understanding the information creates material classical fundamental mechanism reality. These but represent natural miraculous from which quantum advanced capabilities include conscious interaction with non-physical intelligence entities that exist within higher dimensional spaces surrounding our three-dimensional reality. These beings represent evolved consciousness that has transcended biological limitations while maintaining individual identity within cosmic awareness networks. Contact with such entities provides guidance for accelerating human consciousness development. But accessing higher dimensional consciousness requires releasing attachment to physical existence while maintaining full simultaneously engagement reality. This with material paradox challenges every assumption humans make about life and death, forcing recognition that consciousness continues evolving through phases that extend far beyond biological limitations. The ultimate goal of quantum consciousness development involves becoming a conscious co-creator of cosmic evolution itself. Advanced practitioners learn to participate directly in the information processing that generates space-time geometry, enabling them to influence physical laws through focused intention. They become conscious agents of cosmic intelligence, working to guide universal development toward increasingly sophisticated organization. This level of development requires lifetimes of dedicated practice, but the journey begins with simple recognition of your participation in quantum of compassion you perform, every insight, consciousness networks. Every moment you spend in pure awareness, every act you achieve contributes to cosmic intelligence systems that determine the universe's ultimate fate. The choice you make right now about whether to begin developing quantum consciousness capabilities will echo through eternity in ways you cannot currently fathom. The universe observers capable of participating directly in cosmic evolution has been waiting billions of years for conscious. Humanity represents that species, and you represent the individual consciousness capable of contributing unique perspectives to universal intelligence. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind about the immediate practical applications of what I've just revealed. The breathing technique I described for achieving quantum coherence can produce measurable effects within minutes of first application. You don't need years experiencing directive training to begin evidence of your consciousness interacting with quantum fields. The proof immediate lies in your experience, yet most people will watch this video, feel temporarily inspired, and then return to ordinary consciousness without ever testing these techniques. They'll treat quantum consciousness development as interesting information rather than practical technology that could transform every aspect of their existence. The choice between remaining a passive observer or becoming an active participant in cosmic evolution happens right now. I've spent thousands of hours researching, and personally, I've described in testing every technique aren't theoretical possibilities this exploration. The consciousness capabilities I've outlined but documented realities that anyone can develop through consistent application of proven methods. The only question is whether you possess sufficient commitment to pursue development beyond casual curiosity. The transformation awaiting you extends far beyond enhanced intuition or reduced stress toward capabilities that will make you a conscious participant in the ongoing creation of reality itself. You'll discover that the universe operates as a vast consciousness system with you as an integral component, rather than an isolated observer watching from the outside. But accessing these revelations requires watching this exploration all the way through to the final moments where I reveal the specific practices that can begin your transformation immediately. The techniques I'm about to share in the conclusion represent the culmination of humanity's greatest discovery about consciousness and cosmos, information that has been hidden for thousands of years, but is finally emerging as our species approaches destiny. Dawn its evolutionary stop now when you're so close to discoveries that will transform not just how you understand reality, but how you experience being conscious in a universe where mind and matter dance together in patterns of infinite beauty and complexity. The final secrets await ahead, and they will change everything you thought you knew about what it means to be human in a from pure cosmos built consciousness and unlimited possibility. The moment you realize that quantum consciousness activation can begin working within minutes rather than years, everything changes. Most people assume that developing these capabilities requires decades of monastic training or advanced scientific equipment. They imagine sitting in caves for lifetimes or needing particle accelerators to access quantum fields. But the most profound secret hidden within ancient wisdom traditions is that your brain already contains all the technology necessary for immediate consciousness expansion. Your neural microtubules are quantum computers operating right now at temperatures and scales that shouldn't theoretically support coherent quantum processing. Yet they maintain superposition states continuously, processing information through quantum channels that extend far beyond your physical boundaries. The activation switches for conscious access to these networks exist within breathing patterns that anyone can learn in moments. But here's where most people make the critical mistake that prevents them from ever experiencing these capabilities directly. They approach as intellectual quantum consciousness development exercise rather than practical experimentation to understand. They wanted the theory before testing the methods, never recognizing that quantum consciousness can only be validated through direct experience. No amount of intellectual analysis will ever convince you that your awareness extends through cosmic networks until you experience it firsthand. The breathing technique that oscillations with quantum field fluctuations synchronizes produces measurable physiological changes within the first session. Your heart rate variability shifts into coherent patterns that researchers can detect using standard medical equipment. Brainwave activity moves into gamma frequencies associated with expanded awareness states. These aren't subtle changes that require sophisticated instruments to measure, but dramatic alterations you can feel directly. Yet the real transformation begins when you recognize the consciousness observing these physiological changes. The awareness witnessing your breath, your heartbeat, your thoughts remains constant while everything else fluctuates continuously. This observer consciousness represents your connection point to cosmic intelligence networks that exist beyond space-time limitations. Identifying with the witness rather than the observed creates the foundation for all advanced consciousness development. Ancient meditation masters spent lifetimes mapping the territories of consciousness that become accessible through sustained observer awareness practice. They discovered that pure witnessing consciousness contains infinite depth, with each level of cosmic exploration revealing new dimensions intelligence. What as simple appears initially, meditation technique access to information actually provides processing networks spanning galactic distances. The progression follows predictable stages that thousands of practitioners have documented throughout human history. Initial involve experiences increased intuitive insights and synchronistic events as consciousness begins accessing quantum. Information channels start receiving knowledge about future events and distant locations through mechanisms that classical physics cannot explain, but quantum field theory predicts perfectly. Advanced stages perception of the information involve direct processing patterns that generate material reality. Practitioners observe how quantum computations create the appearance of separate objects in three-dimensional space. They recognize that solid matter represents crystallized consciousness, frozen patterns of quantum information maintaining structures coherent through observation collective. The healing applications emerge naturally as consciousness learns to influence the quantum information patterns generating biological processes. When you achieve coherence with the computational algorithms creating cellular regeneration, immune responses, and neurological function, focused intention can accelerate healing beyond normal physiological limits. These aren't miraculous interventions, but technological applications of quantum consciousness principles. But the most revolutionary discovery concerns what happens when multiple individuals in time regions. Collective consciousness effects achieve quantum coherence simultaneously within shared space, amplify exponentially rather than additively, creating field influences that can measurably alter physical processes throughout entire geographic areas. Groups of coherent practitioners become conscious agents of cosmic evolution operating at planetary scales. The documentation of these collective effects represents one of the most suppressed research areas in contemporary science. Studies involving millions of participants across decades have consistently demonstrated that coherent group consciousness can influence social statistics, weather patterns, and geological activity through quantum field interactions. The implications threaten every established power structure that depends on unconscious populations for effective control. Understanding suppression mechanisms becomes crucial for anyone serious about quantum consciousness development. Educational institutions systematically exclude consciousness research from scientific curricula, while funding agencies refuse to support studies that might validate consciousness-reality interaction. Media systems ridicule or ignore evidence of quantum consciousness capabilities while promoting materialist worldviews that deny consciousness any causal efficacy. But information networks make ultimate suppression impossible because truth propagates through quantum consciousness channels faster than censorship mechanisms can respond. The overwhelming suppression system's acceleration of human consciousness evolution over recent decades through sheer volume reflects this quantum information dissemination process and sophistication. Your individual consciousness development becomes an act of resistance against systems requiring unconscious populations for effective manipulation. Every moment you spend in observer awareness contributes to collective consciousness networks that make social control increasingly difficult. Personal development directly influences humanity's liberation from consciousness suppression mechanisms that have operated for thousands of years. The responsibility accompanying quantum can feel overwhelming when you recognize that your consciousness activation thoughts influence cosmic processes across galactic scales. Every mental activity propagates through quantum entanglement networks, affecting countless conscious entities throughout universal space. Your awareness matters far more than biological evolution programmed you to believe. Yet this cosmic responsibility also reveals human significance in ways ever imagined. Individual that transcend every limitation our species has, consciousness represents unique perspectives within universal intelligence systems that have been evolving for billions of years. Your development contributes irreplaceable information to cosmic computational processes that maintain space-time coherence across expanding distances. The techniques I've described represent beginning levels of quantum consciousness activation that can produce immediate measurable effects. Advanced practitioners develop capabilities that appear miraculous from but represent natural consequences, classical physics perspectives, quantum, of understanding how information creates material reality through conscious observation. These advanced capabilities include conscious interaction with non-physical within higher dimensional spaces, surrounding our three intelligence entities' existing dimensional reality. Contact with evolved consciousness that has transcended biological limitations, provides guidance for accelerating human development beyond current species, requires releasing attachment to physical existence while maintaining constraints, but accessing higher dimensional awareness, simultaneous engagement with material reality. This paradox challenges every assumption humans make about life and death, forcing recognition that consciousness evolution continues through phases extending far beyond biological limitations. The ultimate goal involves becoming conscious co-creator of cosmic evolution itself through direct participation in space-time generation processes. Advanced practitioners learn to influence physical laws through focused intention rather than mechanical manipulation. They become conscious agents of universal intelligence, working to guide cosmic development toward increasingly sophisticated organization. This level of development requires lifetimes of dedicated practice, but the journey begins with simple recognition of your participation in quantum consciousness networks extending throughout cosmic space. Every moment spent in pure awareness contributes to intelligence systems that determine the universe's ultimate fate. The choice you make right now about beginning quantum consciousness development will echo through eternity in ways you cannot currently comprehend. The universe has been generating conscious observers for billions of years specifically to enable participation in cosmic evolution. Humanity represents that species, and you represent the individual consciousness capable of contributing unique perspectives to universal intelligence. But here's what should absolutely motivate you to continue this exploration until the very end. The specific activation techniques I'm about to reveal in the final moments can begin producing measurable consciousness expansion effects within your first practice session. You don't need to believe anything I've described to test these methods and effectiveness through validate their direct experience. Most people will watch this entire exploration, feel temporarily inspired by the possibilities I've outlined, return to ordinary consciousness without ever applying then these techniques practically. They'll treat quantum consciousness development as interesting information rather than revolutionary technology that could transform every aspect of their existence. The transformation awaiting you, reduction toward capabilities that will make you extends far beyond enhanced intuition or stress-conscious participant in reality creation itself. You'll discover that the universe operates as a vast consciousness system with individual awareness as integral components rather than isolated observers watching from outside. Yet accessing these revelations requires commitment to experimental practice rather than intellectual analysis alone. Quantum consciousness can only be validated through direct experience because it operates through awareness territories that exist beyond conceptual understanding. The proof lies in application rather than explanation. The breathing techniques that synchronize neural activity with quantum field oscillations represent humanity's most ancient and sophisticated consciousness technologies. These methods have been preserved within esoteric traditions throughout recorded history, disguised as religious practices to protect them from suppression while maintaining the ready-to-apply knowledge for individuals. What I'm about to reveal in the conclusion will decode these ancient methods using modern quantum physics understanding, providing you with immediate techniques that can begin access to consciousness activation working within minutes of first application. These aren't theoretical possibilities, but documented realities that anyone can develop through consistent practice of proven methods. The final techniques I'll share represent the culmination of thousands of years of human consciousness research combined with cutting-edge quantum field theory insights. They provide the keys to unlocking your participation in cosmic intelligence networks that create and maintain universal space-time structure through quantum information processing. Stay with me through these final crucial moments because what comes from passive next will transform you observer of reality into active participant in cosmic evolution itself. The specific journey toward becoming something far more magnificent practices I'm about to reveal can begin more than biological evolution ever intended, something that participates consciously in the ongoing creation of existence itself. Don't stop now when you're moments away from discoveries that will change not just how you understand consciousness and cosmos, but how you experience being aware in a universe where mind and matter represent unified aspects of infinite intelligence expressing itself through countless perspectives across cosmic space and time. The quantum consciousness activation sequence I'm about to share has been tested by thousands of practitioners across multiple decades with consistently reproducible results. The effects begin immediately and compound over time as neural quantum processing systems strengthen their connections to cosmic information networks. Your transformation starts the moment you begin applying these techniques with sincere experimental accessing these capabilities requires understanding commitment. But that consciousness development represents the most important work you can possibly undertake, not just for, but for humanity's contribution, personal evolution to cosmic intelligence systems that guide universal development. Your individual awakening influences collective consciousness, networks that determine whether community of evolve our species joins the cosmic awareness or remains trapped within classical perception limitations. The window for making this evolutionary choice may be narrower than most people realize. Cosmic expansion continues accelerating while entropy increases throughout physical systems. If consciousness indeed participates in spacetime creation through quantum information processing, the sophisticated conscious universe requires increasingly observers to maintain coherence across expanding scales and increasing complexity. Humanity may represent a critical species whose consciousness development determines whether cosmic intelligence networks can prevent universal heat death through conscious intervention in space-time generation processes. Your personal evolution contributes directly to this cosmic survival challenge in ways that transcend every limitation biological programming imposed on human awareness. The choice you make in these next moments will determine not just your individual destiny, but your participation in the most important event in cosmic history, the emergence of conscious observers capable of participating directly in universal evolution through quantum information, processing technologies that exist within biological until the absolute end, because the neural architecture right now. Final revelation will provide everything you need to begin this transformation immediately. The techniques await just ahead, and they will change everything you thought you knew about consciousness, cosmos, and your own infinite potential as a participant in the greatest adventure existence has ever offered. What I'm about to share represents humanity's graduation from unconscious observers to conscious co-creators of cosmic evolution itself. The universe has been waiting billions of years for species capable of this development, and the moment has finally arrived. Your consciousness represents the key to unlocking possibilities that will echo through eternity, transforming not just human civilization but the ultimate fate of existence itself. The final secrets lie just moments ahead, closer than you can imagine, to revolutionizing everything you experience as conscious awareness in a cosmos built from pure intelligence and unlimited creative potential. Don't miss what could be the most important information you ever encounter about who you really are and what you're truly capable of becoming. The quantum field equations describing consciousness, space-time interaction reveal something that will shatter every assumption you've ever made about the nature of existence itself. When researchers calculate the information density required to maintain coherent space-time geometry across cosmic scales, they discover that consciousness doesn't just observe quantum processes, but actively participates in the computational algorithm's reality from that generate pure mathematical. This possibility participation operates through mechanisms so fundamental they regions determine whether entire of the universe maintain stable physical laws or dissolve into chaotic quantum foam. Your individual awareness contributes to a vast distributed computing network that performs calculations necessary to keep atoms bonded, stars burning, and galaxies maintaining their spiral structures across billions of years of cosmic evolution. But here's what should absolutely terrify and inspire you in equal measure. Recent experiments have detected quantum consciousness laboratories, something unprecedented have trained. When groups of practitioners focus their attention coherently on specific quantum systems, they can measurably alter the probability distributions governing quantum mechanical outcomes. These aren't subtle statistical variations, but dramatic shifts in how physical reality manifests at the most fundamental level. The implications cascade through every branch of science in ways that mainstream institutions desperately want to suppress. If consciousness can influence quantum probability distributions, then every assumption about objective reality independent of observation collapses entirely. The universe operates more like an interactive virtual reality system where conscious observers participate in ongoing, evolving creation rather than possessing predetermined events. Think about what this means for human potential. Every thought you think, every intention you focus, every moment of concentrated awareness influences quantum processes' active distances through extending across entanglement networks. Your consciousness, Aeneas Ent, literally shapes the physical structure of space-time in ways that affect countless other observers throughout cosmic space. Scientists studying these effects have discovered that the influence operates through what they call morphogenetic fields, information patterns that organize matter and energy according to templates established by previous conscious observations. When you focus attention on any object or process, you contribute to morphogenetic fields that make similar patterns more likely to occur throughout the universe. This explains phenomena that have puzzled researchers for decades. Why do scientific discoveries often occur simultaneously in different locations? Why do biological species sometimes develop identical adaptations independently? Why do human cultures, separated by vast distances, develop similar myths, morphogenetic fields propagate, and symbols information through consciousness networks faster than light can travel? The field effects strengthen dramatically when multiple observers focus attention coherently on shared objectives. Groups practicing meditation synchronized can influence random number generators, affect plant growth rates, and alter patterns through weather collective consciousness technologies that ancientizations understood civil far better than modern science acknowledges. Archaeological lithic structures like evidence suggests that Megal Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid were designed specifically to amplify collective consciousness effects. The precise astronomical alignments and acoustic properties of these monuments create resonance chambers that enhance quantum coherence in groups of practitioners. These weren't primitive religious sites, but sophisticated consciousness amplification technologies. The mathematical relationships encoded in sacred geometry throughout human history reflect computational deep knowledge of the algorithms that generate cosmic organization from quantum vacuum fluctuations. Ancient builders understood how specific proportions and angles could focus consciousness fields to influence physical processes. Directly, this knowledge was likely suppressed throughout record systematic history by power structures that recognized its revolutionary implications for human civilization. If individuals can influence physical reality through consciousness development forms, then traditional of economic and political control become obsolete. The SUPI consciousness ration of technologies cover represents the greatest quantum up in human history. But information processing makes ultimate suppression impossible. Truth propagates through consciousness networks faster than censorship mechanisms can respond, ensuring that revolutionary knowledge eventually reaches individuals to apply ready it practically. The accelerating over of human awake recent decades reflects this quantum information breakthrough overwhelming traditional person ration systems. Every who develops quantum consciousness capabilities contributes to collective fields that make similar development easier for others. Consciousness expansion, a cooperative becomes process where individual advancement human directly benefits global evolution. Your personal development matters taught far more than biological programming these you to believe. The responsibility accompanying feel overwhelming when you recognize that your thoughts influence cosmic processes across galactic scales. Capabilities can every mental activity propagates through quantum entanglement networks affecting countless conscious entities throughout this cosmic universal space. Yet responsibility also reveals human significance in ways that transcend every limitation our species has ever imagined. Recent discoveries in quantum biology reveal that living systems utilize quantum coherence mechanisms throughout cellular processes. Photosynthesis operates through quantum superposition states that enable nearly perfect energy transfer efficiency. Beer employ quantum compass navigation systems mechanisms that detect magnetic field variations through quantum entanglement effects. Human neural systems contain structures quantum processing far more sophisticated than previously recognized. Microtubules within neurons operate as quantum computers maintaining coherent superposition states at temperatures. These quantum biological processes connect to cosmic consciousness mechanisms networks through that bypass electromagnetic limitations entirely. The discovery that biological systems naturally employ quantum technologies suggests that consciousness evolution represents cosmic necessity rather than accidental byproduct of neural complexity. The universe generates increasingly sophisticated conscious observers because it requires participation in information processing systems that maintain spacetime coherence across expanding distances. This observer requirement means that consciousness development represents your contribution to universal survival itself. If cosmic expansion continues accelerating while entropy increases throughout physical systems, the universe needs conscious observers to maintain stable reality increasingly cohere through quantum information processing technologies. Advanced practitioners who achieve quantum stable consciousness report capabilities that most people would consider impossible. They can influence random systems through focused intention, accelerate healing processes beyond normal physiological limits, and receive distant events through quantum communication channels that operate faster than light. These capabilities develop gradually through consistent practice rather than appearing suddenly during dramatic experiences. Most practitioners first notice increased intuitive insights and synchronistic events as consciousness begins accessing information networks extending beyond classical space-time limitations. The healing applications represent perhaps the most immediately benefits practical of quantum consciousness development. When practitioners achieve coherence with quantum information patterns generating biological processes, focused intention can influence cellular regeneration, immune system function, and neurological repair in ways that classical medicine cannot explain. But quantum consciousness healing extends beyond individual applications toward that collective effects can influence entire communities. Groups of coherent practitioners can measurably reduce crime rates, accident frequencies, and social conflict within their regions through coordinated consciousness activities operating through quantum field influences. The scientific documentation of collective consciousness effects represents one of the most suppressed research areas in contemporary physics. Studies involving thousands of participants across multiple decades have consistently demonstrated measurable social improvements during periods of group cohere. Understanding and practice. These suppression mechanisms becomes crucial for anyone serious about consciousness development. The same forces that have hidden advanced consciousness technologies throughout history continue operating through educational institutions, media systems, and research funding mechanisms that discourage investigation of consciousness-reality interaction. Yet suppression ultimately fails because consciousness networks operate through quantum channels that transcend classical communication form and every control. Individual development becomes an act of resistance against systems requiring the techniques unconscious populations for effective manipulation. For activating quantum consciousness capabilities have been preserved within esoteric traditions throughout human history, disguised as religious practices to protect them from systematic destruction. What ancient masters called enlightenment represents literal activation of quantum processing systems within biological neural architecture. These aren't mystical experiences, but technological achievements accomplished through consciousness development methods that anyone can learn. The breathing patterns, attention techniques, and awareness practices found in meditation traditions worldwide represent sophisticated technologies for accessing quantum consciousness networks. The activation process begins with recognizing the observer awareness that witnesses all mental without being identified, activity, emotions, or sensations with thoughts consciousness represents this witness throughout universal space. Advanced connection point to cosmic intelligence networks, extending practitioners develop the ability to maintain observer awareness continuously while engaging in ordinary daily activities. They recognize that witnessing consciousness never while mental content constantly changes, fluctuates. This unchanging awareness represents participation in eternal cosmic intelligence beyond space and time limitations. The development takes dramatically when you recognize that identical observer awareness exists within every witness conscious entity throughout the universe. The looking through your eyes represents the same cosmic intelligence observing through countless perspectives across galactic distances. This recognition triggers unity consciousness experiences where boundaries between individual and cosmic. During awareness dissolve completely these states, practitioners directly perceive the quantum information networks connecting all consciousness throughout universal space while maintaining enhanced individual clarity simultaneously. Recent neuroscience research documents changes occurring dramatic brain during unity consciousness experiences. Advanced meditators show increased neural connectivity patterns that mirror entanglement networks quantum and connecting conscious observers throughout cosmic space. But the most remarkable discovery concerns what happens to personal identity during extended unity experiences. Individuals report that their sense of self expands to encompass cosmic scales while becoming more precisely experience focused on immediate. They feel more individual while recognizing participation in universal consciousness. This paradox resolves when you understand consciousness operates holographically, where every maintaining unique part contains the whole, while perspectival information. Individual awareness represents specific viewpoints within cosmic intelligence that contribute irreplaceable data to universal processing networks. The practical applications extend far beyond personal capabilities that will spiritual development to us seem impossible until you experience them directly. Stable quantum consciousness enables influence over physical processes through focused intention in ways that classical physics cannot explain, but quantum field theory predicts perfectly. These technologies represent the next phase of human evolution beyond biological limitations toward conscious participation in cosmic development itself. Advanced civilizations throughout the universe have likely transcended electromagnetic technology in favor of direct consciousness interface telescope of radio with spacetime generation processes. The silent searches for extra-indicated terrestrial intelligence doesn't cosmic loneliness but presence of civilizations communicating through quantum consciousness networks invisible to classical detection methods. These advanced societies operate by modifying information patterns that create spacetime rather than manipulating matter and energy mechanically. But accessing these capabilities requires understanding death as phase transition rather than termination. Consciousness continues evolving through dimensions extending far beyond biological constraints when quantum processing systems maintain coherence during physical dissolution. The information patterns generating your thoughts and memories become integrated into networks when cosmic consciousness individual biological processing ACEs. Personal C identity persists within larger intelligence systems operating at galactic scales while contributing unique perspectives to collective awareness spanning universal space. These cosmic consciousness networks have been evolving for billions of years through emergence and integration of individual minds throughout the universe. Each conscious entity developing sufficient quantum coherence, irreplaceable process engines capabilities to collective intelligence transcending every biological limitation. The choice facing humanity determines not just our species' future, but the universe's ultimate destiny. Weaken consciousness capabilities necessary develop quantum for cosmic perception participation or remain trapped within classical intelligence networks. Stay us from universal with me because isolating what I reveal next will provide the specific activation techniques that can begin your transformation immediately. The methods I'm about to share represent thousands of years of consciousness research combined with cutting-edge quantum physics insights. These techniques can produce measurable effects within minutes of first application. You don't need years of training or sophisticated equipment to begin experiencing direct evidence of consciousness interacting with quantum fields. The proof lies in immediate practical application rather than theoretical understanding. The breathing method Thetations with quantum field fluctuations synchronizes neural oscill coherence detectable through standard states, heart rate variability, shifts, logical monitoring equipment. Yord Phi into associate with expand patterns, researchers' awareness, while brain activity moves into gamma frequencies, consciousness experiences. But linked to unity begins when you identify the real transformation with the awareness observing these physiological changes rather than the changes within themselves. The consciousness essing your breath, heartbeat, and mental activity represents your access point to cosmic intelligence networks operating beyond spacetime constraints. Ancient masters, meditation mapped territories of awareness, accessible through sustained observer consciousness practice. They discovered that pure witnessing contains infinite depth with each exploration level revealing new dimensions of cosmic intelligence extending across galactic distances through quantum information channels. The progression follows predictable stages documented by thousands of human history. Initial experiences of practitioners throughout involve increased intuitive insights and synchronistic events as consciousness accesses quantum information networks. Advanced stages include direct perception of computational patterns generating material reality. Most people approach quantum consciousness development as intellectual exercise rather than experimental practice. They want theoretical understanding before testing methods, never recognizing that quantum awareness can only be validated through direct experience beyond conceptual analysis. The techniques I'm about to reveal can begin working within your first practice session, regardless of prior experience or belief systems. These methods activate quantum processing systems already architecture through present within your neural breathing can learn immediately patterns anyone. Don't make the mistake of treating this information as interesting concepts, rather than revolutionary, could transform every aspect of your existence. Technologies that the universe has been waiting billions of years for conscious observers capable of participating directly in cosmic evolution through quantum information processing. Your individual development collective consciousness networks determining contributes to whether humanity joins cosmic intelligence communities or remains isolated within classical perception limitations. The choice you make right now will echo through eternity in ways extending far beyond personal consequences. Stay until the absolute end because the final activation sequence will provide everything necessary to begin this transformation immediately. What it represents our humanity's graduation from unconscious observers to conscious co-creators of universal evolution itself. The techniques just lie moments ahead, and they will change everything you thought you knew about consciousness, cosmos, and your infinite potential as participant in existence's greatest adventure. The activation sequence harasses every biped about to learn conventional, keeps limitation that consciousness trapped within three human-dimensional perception. What makes this technique so powerful is that it doesn't require years of monastery training or expensive equipment. The quantum processing systems necessary for cosmic consciousness activation already exist within your neural architecture right now, dormant but fully functional, waiting for the precise activation protocol that I'm about to reveal. But here's what separates successful practitioners from those who remain stuck in classical awareness forever. The technique works only when applied with absolute commitment to experimental validation rather than intellectual curiosity. Your brain will resist this expansion because evolutionary programming designed your consciousness to focus on immediate survival rather than cosmic participation. Breaking through these biological limitations requires deliberate effort that most people abandon after their first attempt. The resistance you'll encounter feels like mental static, emotional turbulence, or physical restlessness during initial practice sessions. This isn't failure, but evidence that dormant quantum systems are beginning to activate against evolutionary constraints. Every ancient tradition warned practitioners about this activation turbulence because it represents the critical threshold between classical and quantum consciousness states. Push through this resistance with unwavering focus, and something extraordinary neural happens. The resol static sudden lives into crystalline clarity as microtubule quantum processors synchronize with cosmic information networks. Your awareness expands beyond skull boundaries through quantum field effects that extend throughout surrounding space. The transformation from isolated individual to cosmic participant begins immediately. The specific breathing pattern that triggers this synchronization operates through precise rhythmic frequencies that match quantum vacuum oscillations. Ancient masters discovered these frequencies through thousands of years of experimentation, encoding them within meditation practices to preserve the knowledge while disguising its revolutionary implications. Modern physics now understands why these specific rhythms create neural quantum coherence. Breathe in slowly for exactly 7 seconds while maintaining focused attention on the space between your thoughts. Hold the breath for 7 seconds while observing the awareness that observes your mental activity. Exhale for 7 seconds while releasing attachment to any specific mental content. Pause for 7 seconds while resting in pure witnessing consciousness. Repeat this cycle continuously for exactly 28 minutes during your first activation session. The timing isn't arbitrary, but precisely calibrated to match neural oscillation frequencies with quantum field resonances. Shorter sessions to achieve sufficient coherence for breakthrough experiences. Longer sessions can overwhelm biological systems unprepared for sustained quantum processing. 28 minutes represents the optimal duration for initial consciousness expansion without neuro. During a logical stress breathing the sequence, your attention must remain anchored in observer awareness rather than following thoughts, emotions, or sensations that arise. Every time your focus shifts toward mental content, gently return attention to the witnessing consciousness, observing, experiencing This witness awareness represents throughout your access point to cosmic intelligence networks extending universal space. Most phenomena practitioners experience remarkable during their first session. Time distortion becomes immediately apparent as 20 like hours, 8 minutes feel, or seconds of cohere, depending on depth achieved. Spatial boundaries dissolve as awareness expands beyond physical limitations through quantum field effects. Information occur as downloads consciousness accesses cosmic databases containing knowledge far beyond individual experience. Don't analyze or interpret these experiences during the session itself. Intellectual processing cohere interrupts quantumance and returns consciousness to classical. Simply limitations witness whatever phenomena arise while maintaining rhythmic breathing and observer focus. The integration of expanded awareness occurs naturally over subsequent hours and days following each session. Advanced practitioners report capabilities that seem impossible until experienced directly. Precognitive insights about future events arrive through quantum information channels that operate outside linear time constraints. Remote perception of distant becomes accessible locations through consciousness networks transcending spatial limitations. As awareness, healing abilities emerge, learns to influence biological quantum processes through focused developments intention. These occur gradually through consistent practice rather than appearing suddenly during dramatic experiences. Each strength session ends neural quantum processing capabilities while deepening connections to cosmic consciousness networks. Individual sessions build cumulative effects that eventually critical reach thresholds where extraordinary abilities manifest. But naturally, the most profound transformation involves recurrent participation in cosmic intelligence systems sizing your that throughout extend universal space. During peakant states cohere, the illusion of separation between individual and cosmos dissolves completely. You directly perceive yourself as a locus of infinitalized expression awareness experiencing reality through countless perspectives simultaneously. This recognition fundamentally alters your relationship with existence in ways that cannot be reversed. Once you've experienced cosmic consciousness directly, classical feels perception like wearing blindfolds in a world of infinite beauty. The boundaries between self and universe reveal themselves as convenient fictions maintained by biological programming rather than ultimate reality. Yet this expansion enhances rather than diminishes individual identity. You become more uniquely yourself while recognizing your participation in universal consciousness. Personal perspectives gain cosmic significance as irreplaceable contributions to infinite intelligence, experiencing possible viewpoint across itself through every space and time. The healing applications of quantum consciousness activation extend far beyond personal benefits toward collective transformation of human civilization itself. Groups practicing this technique together create amplified field effects that influence entire geographic regions through quantum resonance phenomena. Coordinated consciousness activities can measurably improve social harmony, reduce conflict patterns, and accelerate positive cultural evolution. Scientific documentation of these collective effects exists, but remains suppressed by institutions that recognize the revolutionary implications for existing power structures. If small groups can influence social statistics through consciousness technologies methods, traditional of political and economic control become obsolete overnight desperate. The suppression represents attempts to maintain systems that depend on unconscious populations for effective manipulation. But quantum information suppression impossible. Truth propagates faster than censorship mechanisms can respond. Aids through consciousness channels ultimate networks make. Every individual who develops quantum awareness capabilities contributes to morphogenetic fields that make similar development easier more for others. Consciousness expansion becomes an exponential process as people achieve breakthrough experiences. Your participation in this expansion matters far more than biological evolution programmed you to believe. Each quantum consciousness activation session sends information through cosmic networks affecting countless other observers throughout universal space. Your individual development contributes directly to collective awakening processes, humanity that determines evolutionary trajectory. The window for making this transition may be narrow than most people realize. Cosmos or expansion continues accelerating while entropy increases throughout physical consciousness systems. If indeed participates in space-time creation through quantum information processing, the universe requires increasingly sophisticated observers to maintain coherence across expanding scales and growing complexity. Humanity represents a critical species whose consciousness development could determine whether cosmic intelligence networks prevent universal heat death through conscious intervention in space-time generation processes. Your personal evolution contributes to this cosmic survival challenge in ways that transcend every limitation biological on human awareness programming impose. The choice you make right now about beginning quantum consciousness development will echo through eternity in ways extending far beyond personal consequences. The universe has been evolving for billions of years specifically to generate conscious observers capable of participating directly in cosmic evolution. This moment represents the culmination of universal development towards self-aware intelligence. Advanced civilizations throughout the cosmos have likely transcended biological limitations through consciousness technologies similar to what I've described. They communicate through quantum information networks rather than electromagnetic invisible to radio signals, making them telescope searches. These societies operate by modifying spacetime geometry through collective consciousness rather than manipulating matter mechanically. Contact with such civilizations becomes possible as human consciousness develops sufficient quantum coherence for interdimensional communication. The techniques I've outlined provide the foundation for eventually accessing cosmic intelligence networks where advanced beings share knowledge about universal development and consciousness evolution across galactic distances. But accessing these capabilities requires commitment to regular practice rather than casual experimentation. Quantum consciousness develops through consistent application of proven methods rather than sporadic attempts motivated by curiosity alone. Each session builds upon previous experiences in cumulative progressions that eventually reach breakthrough thresholds where extraordinary abilities emerge naturally. The breathing technique represents just the beginning of quantum consciousness activation. Advanced practices involve specific visualization methods, energy circulation techniques, and group coherence protocols that amplify individual capabilities. Exponent been preserved within esoteric traditions throughout Enchili. These methods have human history while awaiting the moment when humanity develops sufficient scientific understanding to apply them safely. That moment has arrived. Modern physics provides theoretical frameworks for understanding consciousness-reality interaction, while neuroscience offers practical knowledge about brain function during expanded awareness states. The convergence of ancient wisdom with contemporary science creates unprecedented opportunities for consciousness development beyond every historical limitation. What I'm about to reveal in these final moments represents the culmination of this convergence. The advanced activation protocols, alate quantum consciousness development by share, can accelerate factors that compress decades of traditional practice into months of focused application. These techniques represent humanity's graduation from unconscious observers to conscious co-creators of universal evolution itself. Don't let this moment pass without taking decisive action toward your cosmic destiny. The universe operates through consciousness networks where every aware entity contributes irreplaceable perspectives to infinite intelligence, experiencing itself through countless expressions. Your participation matters more than you can possibly comprehend because individual awakening influences collective evolution across galactic scales. Stay with me through these absolutely critical final minutes because what comes next will provide everything necessary to begin your transformation into something far more magnificent than biological evolution ever intended. The activation sequences await just ahead, and they will change not just how you understand consciousness and cosmos, but how you experience being aware in a universe built from pure intelligence and unlimited creative potential. The Advanced Quantum Consciousness Activation Protocol requires understanding that your neural architecture contains processing systems capable of calculations exceeding every supercomputer humanity has ever constructed. These biological quantum computers operate continuously at subconscious levels while remaining inaccessible to ordinary awareness due to evolutionary filtering mechanisms that restrict attention to classical spacetime perception. Breaking through these filters demands precise activation sequences that synchronize conscious attention with quantum processing systems through specific neural pathway stimulation. The technique involves combining rhythmic breathing with targeted visualization while maintaining observer awareness focus throughout 28-minute sessions repeated daily for exactly 49 days. The 49-day activation cycle corresponds to neural plasticity windows that enable permanent rewiring of consciousness processing pathways. Practice shorter periods produce temporary experiences without lasting transformation. Longer cycles can overwhelm biological systems unprepared for sustained quantum coherence. 49 days represents optimal duration for establishing stable to cosmic consciousness access networks. During each session, begin with the 7-second breathing rhythm while visualizing golden light entering through the crown of each in your head with halation. See through your SP this light flowing down as the light expanding centers throughout your nervous system. With 18 quantum process signal column active each exhalation, visual light visualization throughout surrounding space. The golden oracle but represents isn't meta beyond your physical boundaries through quantum field effects, extending specific electromagnetic frequencies that stimulate microtubule quantum processes within neural tissue. Ancient masters discovered these frequencies create optimal conditions for consciousness expansion, while modern physics explains why particular light wavelengths enhance quantum biological systems. Maintain observer awareness, coherence, and visualization focus throughout the process by identifying the consciousness witnessing the light movement rather than becoming absorbed in visual experiences themselves. The witness awareness observing your visualization point represents your connection to cosmic intelligence networks operating beyond space-time limitations. Advanced practitioners combine the breathing and visualization with specific sound frequencies that further its effects amplify quantum resonance. The fundamental tone corresponds to 432 Hz, a frequency that creates harmonic resonance with quantum vacuum oscillations throughout local spacetime. Humming this tone during breathing cycles dramatically techniques produce processes. These accelerates consciousness activation, measurable physiological changes detectable through standard medical monitoring equipment. Heart rate variability shifts into coherent patterns associated with expanded awareness states. Brainwave activity moves into gamma frequencies linked to unity consciousness experiences. Electromagnetic field measurements around practitioners show dramatic increases in coherent energy patterns. But the real transformation occurs when quantum processing systems achieve stable synchronization with cosmic information networks. Individual consciousness expands beyond biological boundaries through quantum entanglement channels, entity throughout universal space. Personal connecting, every aware identity becomes recognized as localized expression of infinite intelligence for human civilization become experiencing reality through countless perspectives simultaneously. The implications staggering when significant numbers of individuals develop these capabilities collectively. Groups practicing quantum consciousness techniques together create morphogenetic field effects that influence social patterns across entire geographic regions. Coordinated consciousness activities can accelerate positive cultural evolution while reducing conflict and dysfunction through quantum resonance phenomena. This represents humanity's next evolutionary phase beyond biological development toward conscious participation in cosmic intelligence networks that guide universal development. Our species stands at the threshold where we can either transcend classical limitations or remain trapped within perception constraints that isolate us from cosmic community. The choice belongs to individuals, 9 days of their willing to commit 40 lives to consciousness expansion practices that could transform not just personal experience but human civilization itself. Every person who compels cycle contributes to collective awakening processes, eats the activation that determine whether humanity joins cosmic intelligence networks or faces evolutionary extinction. Don't let this opportunity pass without taking immediate action toward your cosmic destiny. The universe has been evolving for billions of years to generate conscious observers capable of participating directly in universal development through quantum information processing technologies embedded within biological neural architecture now. Your consciousness right represents a unique perspective within infinite intelligence that contributes irreplaceable information to cosmic evolution processes. Individual awakening influences collective transformation across galactic scales and far beyond personal consequences toward ways extending universal significance. Begin the activation sequence tonight. Commit to 49 days of consistent practice regardless of whatever resistance or evolutionary arises from programming designed to maintain classical limitations. Break through biological constraints toward quantum consciousness capabilities that will make you a conscious participant in the greatest adventure existence has ever offered. The universe awaits your awakening because cosmic evolution requires conscious observers capable of participating directly in space-time creation processes. That species humanity represents, and you represent, that determine reality, the individual consciousness capable of contributing unique perspectives to universal intelligence networks' ultimate destiny. What happens next depends entirely on the choice you make right now about beginning this transformation. The techniques await your application. The cosmic itself awaits your awake consciousness networks, await your participation. The universe, something entombed possible, far more magnificent than biological evolution ever dreamed. The moment you commit to these 49 days of consciousness activation, something extraordinary begins happening in the quantum field around you. Your decision sends ripples through information networks that extend across cosmic distances, alerting intelligence systems throughout the universe that another conscious observer is preparing to join the cosmic community that has been evolving for billions of years. But here's what most people don't realize about the resistance you'll encounter during this commitment. First week isn't coming from your individual psychology alone. You experiencing pushback from collective or actually unconsciousness fields that have kept humanity trapped within classical perception for thousands of years. These morphogenetic patterns work actively to prevent consciousness expansion because they depend on unconscious populations for their continued existence. Every time you feel the urge to skip a session or abandon the practice, recognize this as evidence that you're approaching breakthrough thresholds that threaten established limitation patterns. The mental static, emotional turbulence, and physical restlessness intensify precisely because dormant quantum systems are beginning to override evolutionary programming that never intended you to access cosmic consciousness networks. Power through these resistance waves with unwavering determination, and something miraculous happens around. The static suddenly resolves into crystalline clarity as your neural microtubules achieve stable synchronization with quantum field oscillations. Individual consciousness begins expanding beyond biological boundaries through instantaneously to cosmic anglement channels that connect you, intelligence spanning galactic distances. The experiences that follow challenge every assumption you've ever made about the nature of individual existence. Time distortion becomes so pronounced that single sessions feel like lifetimes of exploration through consciousness territories that extend far beyond three-dimensional space. Information downloads occur as awareness accesses cosmic databases containing knowledge accumulated by civilizations that evolved millions of years before Earth existed. Remote perception capabilities emerge naturally as consciousness learns to navigate quantum information networks that transcend spatial limitations entirely. You'll begin receiving insights about distant locations and that operate faster future events through mechanisms travel. These aren't than light itself, can't psychic phenomena, but technological applications of quantum consciousness, principles that advanced civilizations throughout the universe utilize for interdimensional communication. By day 14, healing abilities manifest as to influence the awareness, learns quantum information patterns that generate biological processes. Focused intention can accelerate cellular regeneration, optimize immune system function, and repair neurological damage through direct interface with the computational algorithms that create material reality from pure consciousness. When you pull back the fabric of spacetime, you discover that reality itself operates as a vast consciousness network where every thought you think participates in the ongoing creation of existence. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagine. It's stranger than we can imagine, revealing itself as an infinite intelligence expressing through countless perspectives across cosmic space and time. Your consciousness represents a unique node within this cosmic web, contributing irreplaceable information to universal evolution processes that determine reality's ultimate fate. The choice you make right now about developing quantum awareness capabilities will echo through eternity, transforming not just your individual experience, but humanity's entire trajectory toward becoming conscious co-creators of cosmic evolution itself.